I first, found out about this podcast when I was researching, going to PA school, which I'm 33 years old. My name is Childress. I am a husband, father of two, and I did not take a traditional route to this. There's been a lot of twists and turns, but I actually spent a decade working as a high school football coach, baseball coach. I taught every subject you could imagine, whatever they told me to. And this was not really necessarily what I went to school thinking I was going to do, but it's where I ended up. I love sports, still love sports, even though I'm kind of leaving that realm somewhat. But I spent 10 years doing that nonstop, and kind of ran me into the ground. And but I'm going to kind of wait to kind of steer toward the how I ended up with PA as part of this. But my background from Texas. We just moved to North Carolina for PA school. So this is our first trip out of state. My wife is on board, and my kids are on board, and it's a team in our house. So everybody's really been supportive from multiple levels. But this is a dream that I've had for a long time, and it's just now coming to fruition at age 33. And I couldn't be more excited. We actually start class this week. So we're about 48 hours away. So
that's awesome.
I'm pretty excited, nervous, but just ready to go. So,
okay.
But yeah, that's kind of a general introduction.
Okay. So you went from teacher and coach to PA, which I actually get a lot of messages from people who are teachers.
Yeah.
Who are kind
including
of
me at one point.
Education, yeah, and want to make that jump, but aren't sure how to. So first, tell me kind of show us your mindset of how you got to deciding that you wanted to pursue the PA profession, and then we'll talk about what that actually looked like to get there.
Yeah, there's two different answers there for sure.
Yeah.
And I definitely had somewhat of an advantage, and you'll kind of understand that, but. I did teach for 10 years. However, if you go back to when I was an undergrad, I actually started out as a journalism major. This is how into sports I was. I wanted to be like a sports center anchor or whatever. And I don't really know necessarily that I ever lost that desire. It was more so that I was introduced to the medical field and kind of was amazed by it all. Coincidentally, in one of my writing classes, I was in a class with a guy who was a physical therapy tech at a clinic, and I had gotten really into fitness and stuff at the time, and was kind of interested in helping people get back on their feet and all that. I thought it'd be a cool part-time job. That's just kind of how it started. So I take on this job. It's my sophomore year of college as a PT tech. And initially, when I first started working there, I think I kind of wanted to become a physical therapist. It never seemed like they were working. It seemed like they were having a blast, listening to music. I get to talk all day. It's not too serious necessarily. But I didn't, at that time, just to give you a little background, I didn't even know what a PA was yet. Like, I had no idea. I'd had shoulder surgery in high school, but I never had an encounter with a PA until I worked at the clinic. And in fact, the first exposure I had was another tech I worked with who got accepted to the PA program at Texas Tech. And I basically was like, and she was my age, I was like, what is that? What are you doing? And I had no idea. And she kind of explained it a little bit. And the way she explained it, it really registered with me because she basically said you can choose which avenue you want to go. Instead of being kind of stuck in one area, you can use this, and you can use your degree to do a variety of things. You can work two jobs at once. You can do all these different things. And she's kind of explained that to me, and as you hear my story, you'll realize that I definitely don't see myself doing the same thing for the rest of my life. Like, I'm going to specialize here, specialize there, go back and forth. I don't have any desire to do one thing for 40 years or whatever. But so I found out a little bit there, and then I actually broke my hand, and I was treated by a PA. Kind of pro bono through our clinic or whatever. And so I get in there, this PA's casting me, and I actually spent a couple of days shadowing a PA at that time. And I was in. I was like, sign me up. I changed my major. I switched from journalism to health promotion major, which is what I graduated with. But I I got to be honest. So the red flag was the first class I took was A&P, Anatomy and Physiology. And I went to high school where I never had to study once. I didn't have to study it up until that point in college at all. And it all sounded good. And then I get in there, and of course, I'm told by classmates that we have a difficult teacher. And I never really thought much about that. And long story short, I didn't do well in the class. I passed, but it was like the first time in my life where I was definitely afraid that I was going to fail and I wasn't going to be able to do it. And so I definitely was discouraged. I spent about a year as a pre-PA track, and then I just didn't move forward. I thought I couldn't do it. I genuinely quit and said I need to go a more comfortable route. I finished my degree, but my degree didn't require a lot of those same prereqs. So really the only ones that actually crossed paths were microbiology and A&P 1 and 2. But I ended up having to retake all of those anyway because none of them, like they need to be within the last 5 years or whatever. So again, I was very intrigued by the profession. But the first time I faced failure and adversity with it, I quite simply gave up. So that led me to teaching, and I'll let you kind of jump in. I'm sure you have a question or two there, but I can go.
Well, I think that's a very relatable thing. I don't think you're alone in that. And even someone I was working with recently kind of said the same thing. It was just in her mind that she couldn't do this. And so that led her down a different path. Into
Absolutely.
respiratory therapy, where she was like, oh, maybe I can actually do this, and kind of revisited it. So I don't think you're alone in feeling that way. And I think the classes that are required for PA school kind of make all of us feel that way at some point throughout the process. So you ended up teaching because you love sports and enjoyed that. But at what point, was it always in the back of your mind, like, I would still like to revisit PA, or did that come up later where you're like, I just am not fulfilled, PA will be the thing that will fix that for me?
Yeah, it's kind of a combination of all of that. It started out, I guess just because I'm a super positive person. Like, wherever I'm at, I'm going to try to make the most of it. And when I got into teaching, I just, tried to look at the bright side of all of it. I didn't feel like I let anybody down. I felt like I didn't feel like I let myself down. I just felt like I was where I was supposed to be at that time. And even through the whole process, I really don't have a ton of regret because I learned a lot in those 10 years of being a professional and being, on time and doing all these things the right way. But I would say, like, periodically as the years would progress, staying in touch with a lot of people who had gone into medicine and things like that. I think that thought never went away. And it just continued to slowly grow throughout time. I went through a time where I thought, I want to be a head baseball coach. And so I worked and I did that. And I was a head baseball coach, and I didn't feel fulfilled. In fact, we played I was coaching in a state semifinal, and like we won, and I felt nothing. Like I didn't feel like I really was, fulfilling what I was here to do. Made a huge impact on kids and stuff like that, no doubt. But in my mind, I just certainly felt like I wasn't giving everything I could to my life. Ultimately, was there like a trigger point decision? There kind of was. So, like I said, it was periodically I would reflect and think about it, and it would kind of weigh on me at times. But it kind of came to a head in my last year. I'd actually made the decision that I was going to step away from teaching right before spring break. And like actually on that day, I was nominated for Teacher of the Year. So I had to spend this whole spring break sitting there thinking, am I making the right decision? Was this a sign I'm supposed to stay? I didn't know which way I was supposed to go. Then, the day after the spring break ended, I come in and talk to my principal before school, and I told her, this is it. I'm going to step away. I got to pursue this. I'm going to make it happen. And then, I don't really want to focus a ton on this, but like the very next day, one of my students actually committed suicide. And it was like the most eye-opening, it's something I think about every day. And it was certainly, with everything I had been thinking about to that point, it made me realize, obviously, like how fragile life is, how fragile time is, and that if I had any doubt about what I intended to go do, that I don't know necessarily if I used that as a sign, but it definitely made me think that I was probably making the right call to kind of move forward and try to pursue it. Because I did think, like, what if I never go for it? What if I never go for it? What is that teaching my kids? That I didn't go for a dream and I didn't try to accomplish a goal. So, essentially, during that little 2-week span, it went from I'm not sure to I'm out and I'm going for it. So it kind of took off from there.
Okay, so that was a year ago?
That would have been a little over 2 years ago.
A little over 2 years ago. Okay.
It was the spring of 2017
when you made that decision.
I didn't really start prereqs and stuff until that fall.
Okay. Well, so a couple things there. I think it's really easy to get comfortable, and we get comfortable in our circumstances, and then we see these other things as kind of these huge hurdles, even if it's to get to where we want to go. And that's why most people, or a lot of people, don't even take those steps towards just their goals and dreams. And I probably have, 100 new ideas a day that both everyone at work and my husband have to listen to, and my parents, and they think I'm crazy. But, I think the only way that we grow and can see what we're capable of is to try things and take those kind of big steps. And then another thing that I talk about a lot is, or I do in mock interviews anyway, but is like pivotal moments. Like, even if you don't have this dramatic experience with a PA saving you on the side of the road or something, right, that made you decide to do this, like, there are these things and points in our lives where just everything makes us think about stuff and kind of pushes you in a direction. And so even if it's not one event or it's kind of something that culminated, I think those are those pivotal moments that kind of encourage you to move forward, which it sounds like you kind of took those steps.
And those thoughts, like, I've shared those exact sentiments throughout this. Like, just recently I was kind of, I guess even when I wrote my essay to apply, I was doing a lot of reflection as, you have to think about, why am I becoming a PA? What, pushed me this direction? And a lot of it was, I'd write about, like, some people sit on the sideline their whole life and they never have, they never get off the Pat Green song where it says you can live your whole life on the shelf, but you got nobody to blame but your own self. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of thought I had. Like, if I look back and I never went for it or never, like, at least tried, I would feel kind of an emptiness. So yeah, I agree totally.
So I think one thing that's interesting about your story that will resonate with people is that, or maybe encourage them, is the fact that you took those steps. Because I think that's, and I get so many emails that are like, I don't know where to start. That's the thing. I don't know where to start. I don't have hours. I've been a teacher. I don't have hours. I don't have the coursework. Where do I start? So how did you start? Where did you go as far as, okay, I've quit my job. I mean, that's a huge thing. What happens next?
Okay, so, I just will point out that I did have an advantage in that I had multiple, like, thousands of hours as a PT tech, just sitting there in the bank, if you will. But we'll get to that in a moment. So the very first thing I did was I knew I needed to at least attack my biggest hurdle, which was my mental block, was anatomy and physiology, which I would soon find out was absolutely nothing compared to a couple of other courses. But and I'll probably find out later this week that none of that
you will find out
at all. But,
yeah, for sure.
So the very first thing I did was I go and I'm just searching for, like, something that fits with carrying a part-time job, and because I did find a part-time job with a therapist I used to work with to accumulate, like, some more recent hours. Mm-hmm. So I did that periodically throughout this whole process. But then I signed up for class, which was anatomy and physiology. And that first semester, it's going to get crazy in a minute. Because, as you know, down the line, I take organic chemistry in 3 weeks. So
I need to know about that.
we'll get to that. But the very first thing was like, I don't really care necessarily how long this takes. So I'm just going to do one class in the fall, and I did anatomy and physiology. And as a 31-year-old, I can't remember how old I was at that point, but when you go into college and you're that age, and I go into a class with all these 19, 20, 21-year-olds, they don't know how to work, and they don't know how to focus up. And like, it seemed so easy to me. Like, just basically the professor's handing you a good score. They're handing you a B. Can you earn an A? It's kind of how you just got to be present and turn in things. And I had a lab partner in there that I like basically coached him along. Like, just turn this in. Like, just put your name, just fill it out. Do the lab report, do it correctly because they take points off. And he would say things like, "Oh, I'll just get a B." And I was like, they're handing you points, So I took that one class, and I realized very quickly that having worked full-time, like double full-time as a coach, that taking one class and working part-time felt like nothing. So the next semester, like, I kind of went crazy. So I signed up for A&P2 in the short semester. So it was just like 3 months, knocked that out. Simultaneous to that, I took statistics, which I had never taken, hammered both of those out. Along with all that, I was also taking chemistry 1 in the long semester, which I had a mental block about chemistry as well, but I got in there and loved it. And it was, that's when it clicked for me. Like, I got this. Like, there's no turning back now. I can do this. And so the mental hurdle was cleared that semester, and the summer, that it's kind of a blur now, but along that whole time, that's when I reached out to you, and I got one thing I definitely recommend, and I can't, the people who wrote it because I heard it in your podcast, but the book that has all the schools.
The manual, yeah. The manual.
I should have brought it in here for the video.
It makes it a lot, I have mine. It makes it a lot easier. That,
oh my God.
It's pretty much always within arm's reach. This is the newest one. So, yeah.
Yeah, so mine's a 2018.
Near and dear to your heart.
Stuff all over it. It's got, every time that I would apply to a school, I put a sticker in there or a Post-it note, and my wife would get so, she cracks up at my OCD. I would write out the prereqs over and over just to write them out and look and see, okay, check, because I wasn't sure.
Double check.
Sometimes I'd email the admissions staff at a school and say, will this work before I submit my $75 to your school? But kind of from there, I started applying shortly after the cycle opened. I didn't want to do it too early because I had quite a few kind of hanging prereqs, if you will, still on deck. Like, I didn't take microbiology again until the second semester of the summer. And then chemistry 2, somewhere in there I took. And then the organic chemistry is its own chapter. But I applied to, I think, 21 schools. And I got waitlisted to interview.
Yeah.
At 3, straight up denied from a lot. And I kind of went into it thinking, this isn't going to happen, because I'd listened to your podcast. I knew, kind of prepared myself, it may not happen the first time, and this will all be good experience. And, but, along the way, I got an interview invite. First one was in July, and it was set to be in October. Then I got one last minute in August, and it was it's next week, and that was at a school in Pennsylvania.
Oh gosh!
And I went, and that's when I bought your book. It helped tremendously, but I only had 3 or 4 days to prepare. Really, it seemed like, and it went okay. I got waitlisted at that school. I was a nervous wreck, though. I felt a lot of pressure, but I got to see what it was like. I got to see what the things that you talked about in your book, what they were like live. But in many ways, it felt a lot just like a job interview. So it was good, good exposure. I went to another one at a school in North Carolina in September. And then I got the school I got accepted to, which is Campbell University. I got a invite, I guess, late October, and it was interview is November 2nd. And by this point, I really didn't think I was going to get in. I genuinely, so that actually took a lot of the pressure off. And it was kind of late in the cycle, or late in the interview cycle for them. So I just kind of went into it like, I got nothing to lose here. I'm going to go. I'm just going to be myself like, everybody says to do. And I was super calm. I was just, I literally, they say be yourself. I was me when I went in there. I wasn't afraid of anything. In fact, most of all the interviews I went to, they go around the room, I guess just as a time kill, and have you introduce yourself to all these other people you're competing against.
Oh,
so,
gosh.
So when I went through it, I thought I'm going to try to stand out right now. And before I'd even been interviewed, I wasn't like brash or anything or over the top. I just said to everyone, I'm older than all of you in here. I have 2 children at home, and they're both named after famous baseball, iconic historical things. My son is named after Nolan Ryan, and my daughter's named Wrigley after Wrigley Field. And that stuck, like with everybody.
Yeah.
Because later on, there were other people that didn't interview me that were asking me and thought that was cool. So that's just one thing I kind of decided to do. But now we're back to the organic chemistry. So I had enrolled in organic chemistry, legitimately thinking I was not going to get in this go-around. But I knew I needed to have it because there were too many schools that required it. So I had enrolled in an online course, which is somewhat self-paced. Basically, I had like 8 months to do it, but it was just kind of in the background of my life at that point. I get the call on a Monday, the Monday after I interviewed at Campbell, that I was accepted, and I'm like, I'm fired up. Let's do this. I'm really excited. I called my wife, told her all this, and then I remembered that they had a requirement for organic chemistry, which I was enrolled in, and all that's good, but they need everything done by at this point it's November 6th or so. They need everything done basically by the last day of November.
Oh gosh.
So yeah, when I told my wife that, she basically said, "There's no way you're not going to do it." She was so supportive, meaning not in a brash way, but more like, you've come so far and done so much that this will not. It's not going to be a hurdle you can't clear. And at that point, all I needed to do was pass the class. So I kind of took that mindset, and I did not work for those entire 3 weeks.
Well, you were working. You just weren't working.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, the class consisted of 5 tests. Those were your grades. And you got to take each test twice. And they were different tests. So I would wake up every day at about 4:30 in the morning and go until my kids needed to get up. We got them ready for school and all that. Then as soon as they left, I'm still at home, and I just am on the computer and in the book until about 4:30 every day, not moving. I did not feel good during all that. I was just so sedentary. I was reading and practicing drawing all these hexagons, and I don't even remember a lot of it now, but it just kept, so much. And so about every 2 to 3 days, I'd plan on taking a test. And I'd go in there and take the test and kind of get a feel for it, and then I planned on every time retaking it no matter what. So it kind of gave me some exposure to the material and the change, but, anyways, I know that the first 2 tests went great. The third one was not good, and whatever the chapter was on the alcohols really killed my momentum. But then I rebounded, and I basically, we'll just say I passed, and we're here. So, but it can be done, and it took me 3 weeks, and I was on it.
We would not recommend that.
No, I would definitely not recommend that. But my circumstance was basically I had to do it. So.
Yeah, you made it happen. Well, and that's one thing that when I've worked with people or I've, again, gotten emails, I've had a few people who, and this is what I always say, do not put a course on your application if you are not actually taking it or planning on completing it, because I've had people in this situation where they couldn't, at that point they couldn't enroll or couldn't finish the course, and they had to give up an acceptance because their acceptance was pending this course that the school thought you were taking. And that, that does not guarantee that you'll get accepted the next year if you take it. I mean, that is just not a great situation to be in. So
all that pressure on me while I'm taking that hard class.
Exactly, yeah. Man, I feel like we need to interview your wife. She sounds like a saint.
She's right in there.
Well, that's awesome that she was like, you can do it.
Absolutely. We moved across the country. She gave up her job, all that. She is
on
second
board.
to none in that regard. So.
Do you mind sharing what online program you used or what school? That's a question that people ask a lot, and I don't know good online schools.
That one was University of New England.
Okay, and that's the one I see. I see that one, and then there's one called Doan that I see kind of a lot. It
was expensive. I will just say that, but it was great. It's super user friendly and very flexible. Like obviously, so. The teacher, I remember the teacher thinking, "You're going through this pretty rapidly." She sent me an email, and I was like, "Yeah, I kind of have to."
I'm actually a chemistry genius, so let me do my course.
The thing is I took all that, and I know it's probably going to come back to bite me a little bit, but I don't remember a ton of it.
It won't. You won't need it at all. Okay, so thinking about kind of. Like, go back in your mindset to when you were trying to decide if this was something you wanted to do. What tips would you give to other people who are in your situation? Which, I would say that's somebody who is in a career that's pretty stable, maybe has a family, likes where they are, but maybe has this other interest in medicine or becoming a PA. Like, what would you have liked to hear at that point in time?
One of the things that I did hear was the support from my family because, obviously my wife in more than one way carried the weight of me worrying and me deciding to go for it and me, financially quitting my job and us going from two incomes to one, which, to be honest and completely straightforward, that couldn't have happened had my son not started kindergarten. We had two in daycare.
Yeah.
So the timeline, daycare is like a mortgage, so the timeline wouldn't have worked out. I would have had to wait, I guess, is what I'm saying. But you got to make sure you've got a financial plan, obviously. You got to have support from your family, probably more than anything. And I had support from extended family as well. My mom, my aunt, Kelly, who's both of them have been just absolute, saints in this. We couldn't have done it, literally. Could not have done all this without them. It's expensive to apply, all that, that. But, if I had any advice to give someone who's, set in a comfortable career and things are going well, but they're just kind of have that itch and kind of interested is to go for it. Do not, it's so generic, but you can sit there and think you're going to do this when you're ready. But if you wait till you're ready, you will never do it. So I don't know that I was ready when I did it. I don't know that I'm ready right now as I start PA school this week. But if I could change anything about it, I wouldn't. I thoroughly enjoyed the whole process. In fact, I was just talking to my wife right before dinner. She's like, "How do you feel starting school this week?" And I said, I don't want to say I'm like kind of down, but the journey to get here was such a road that all that's been kind of lifted from my shoulders. But I kind of miss it in a way, like, cause it was a journey, flat out. It was a journey. It was, it's about to be a different journey, but it was an absolute journey to get to this point, and it just seems pretty surreal that it actually is happening. And like I said, I wouldn't change anything about it.
Yeah. All right. What are you most nervous about for PA school?
I think maybe just the quantity combined with being a dad. And I basically will not have Saturdays open. That's going to be family time, period. Yeah. So that's the way I've operated through all this, and that won't change. But it's just going to be lack of sleep and all that. I'm really not afraid of the material necessarily because I'm so excited. And I think being 33, having set a goal and leaving a career, I think I'm in a different set of circumstances than if I was 23. And this is just my next degree, like I have worked and I know what full days feel like. And when you think your day's over, but then you pick your kids up like that, like just being a student is nothing compared to tacking on your actual full-time job and being a parent and get off. So I'm just a little bit afraid of the balance, I guess. Which my wife, like I said, super supportive. She knows, and we both talked several times about the didactic year is the year, and then we get kind of to a little bit more reality the second year. But to say I'm afraid or nervous, I am, but it's more of the unknown than anything. Give me a month and I'll be all set. So.
Yeah, you'll find your groove, and I'm sure you'll do great. And it goes by so fast. That's the biggest thing. I always thought, like, oh, everything goes by so fast, but like PA school is a blur. It's just like,
sure.
Oh,
yeah.
Now I'm done. But I'm sure you'll do awesome. Well, thanks so much for sharing. Where can people find you or send you questions, or I can pass them along?
Yeah, it's funny. I knew you were going to ask that. I don't even know my own Instagram handle. I'm not really super active on there, but people can find me. I am going to start posting some stuff when PA school starts, but it's just my name, Sean, SEAN _Childress. Okay. Most of my photos so far are just family, although I do have I got accepted into PA school post somewhere in there. But a lot of it, to me, a lot of my former students follow me on there, and so what they don't know is that they motivated me to go for this. Yeah. So I try to send, I'm following my dreams, so you can kind of see that.
That's awesome.
So yeah.
Thanks so much for being willing to pop on here and share. And
it's pretty cool for me because I have listened to all these, and so to kind of take part, it's pretty cool. So thank you for having me, and it's been a pleasure to share.
Thank you so much.